everyone, and welcome back to Fully Playable Games. So on today's video we are going to be doing another collection deep dive, and on today's video it's actually going to be one that was requested from the last video, and we're going to be looking at the Sega Saturn. So yeah, I am pretty recent to being a Sega Saturn player. I think I picked this one up last year, about this sort of time last year, so I think I've had it about a year. We've got quite a good collection above me. I think we've got 36 games that we're going to be going through today, and yeah, just some really good games. I absolutely love the Saturn, really enjoy playing it, and yeah, can't wait to get into this deep dive. So what we'll do is we will jump over, and first of all we're going to start looking at the hardware. So, starting off with the hardware, I've actually got two different versions of the Sega Saturn in my collection at the moment. So, on the left here, you'll see that I've got the what's called the Mark 1, and on the right, I've got the Mark 2. The easiest way to tell the two versions apart, really, is the buttons on the front. So, with the Mark 1, you'll see they're sort of elongated ovals, and on the Mark 2, they're circular. So you're looking at both the power and the reset button there. Obviously, the Mark II console is the main one that I use. And I've actually got the Mark II controller as well that goes with this. I'm still looking to try and get hold of a black Mark I with the original Mark I controller. But my Mark I that I've got here is actually, for me, it's actually really special. And I was really glad to get hold of it. So you'll see that this one's grey, which is different from normal UK releases. That's because this one is actually a Japanese model, but what makes it a bit more special than that is that it is actually a former dev box. So with the Saturn, they had the dev box was actually a big sort of unit, and then on top a retail Saturn would be plugged in. And looking at the side of my one, you actually see that there is an asset tag from Psygnosis. So yeah, when I saw that, I was absolutely over the moon. It was, yeah, so different and so unexpected as well. You'll also see there on the side there's a big cutout. That is because there was some cables that fed into the Saturn, but I'm not going to be changing the case at all. I'm going to leave it exactly as it is. Because as far as I'm concerned, I want to preserve it as much as I can. But when I did buy this, it did have a blown power supply. So what had happened was, it's because it's a Japanese model, should be running on 100 volts. Someone had plugged it into 240 volts, and essentially blown the power supply. I did do a repair video on it, getting it back up and running, and now it runs absolutely brilliantly. Before moving on to the games, there is one more bit that I would class as hardware that I would advise every single Saturn owner to buy, and that is the Action Replay. This car literally does everything. So it is your sort of standard Action Replay, which allows you to play games with sort of various cheats on. This car is also a 4 meg memory card as well. So with the Saturn, if you wanted to save your games, for example, you would need an external cartridge that plugged into the little slot at the back of the console. Yeah, contrary to popular belief, the slot at the back of the Saturn is not a Mega Drive cartridge slot. The two carts are completely different. And yeah, this is predominantly used for RAM expansion and also storage as well. But what the Action Replay also does, as well as offering you storage and the cheat system, it also allows you to play multi-region games. So what you can do is you can load up the Action Replay, just go straight in, play a game, and then, for example, I tend to play Japanese imports this way. Obviously, I have got the Mark I, which is a Japanese console, but I still tend to just play with the Action Replay. It's just a bit easier. So yeah, one thing I would highly recommend every Saturn owner would pick up would be the Action Replay. I think I ended up getting mine for about 25 quid off eBay. So they're not massively expensive, but yeah, they're worth their weight in gold. So diving into the games, I have currently got 36 games in my Sega Saturn collection. And yeah, in this video, I'm going to try and go through as many of them as we can, because there are some absolutely amazing titles on the Sega Saturn, some of which are exclusive to the Saturn. Others have been sort of ported to other consoles. But yeah, just an absolutely amazing game selection that we're going to go through today. So, seeing as we were recently talking about the action replay and the fact that it can be used to allow you to play multi-region games, probably best that we start off with my imports collection. And as you can see, it is not very big at all. So I've only actually currently got 2 import games in the collection. I am going to probably look to expand this out a bit. The only problem that I have with import games is, especially the Japanese ones, it's just finding the ones that are in English. Because the first game we've got here, Neo Genesis Evangelion, absolutely amazing anime series. I really enjoy watching it. So when I originally got my Saturn, this was one of the first imports that I bought, just because I like the series. But it is completely in Japanese. There's no English translation. There's not even a fan translation done on this. So it is very difficult to play. When I was capturing the footage for this video, I was literally clicking about, didn't have a clue what I was doing. And yeah, it's not one that I've put a lot of time in. I've probably, even with the time that I've filmed the footage for this video, probably done about 15 minutes in total. But one game that I have played extensively out of my import games is Dead or Alive. So I absolutely love the Dead or Alive series. I've got most of the mainline games on other platforms. But what was special with Dead or Alive on the Saturn was that it was only released in Japan. So when the only version in the West of the original Dead or Alive is actually on the PlayStation. I don't think there was one on the Xbox. But yeah, if you wanted to play the Saturn version, you had to get a Japanese import. What is good with this is it is all pretty much in English, so it's really easy to play. But being a fighting game, don't really need a lot of. There's not a lot that needs to be done with regards to sort of language. But yeah, absolutely love this game, and it is one of the top games that I play on my Saturn. So next up, we're going to have a look at some of the driving games that are on the Sega Saturn. And I have to say, this, out of all of the different types of games that you can get, this is probably the biggest sort of mixed bag that we have. So obviously we start off with Sega Rally Championship, which is an absolute classic. Just an amazing game on the Saturn. Probably as close to the arcade as you're going to get on a home system. And yeah, so I really enjoy playing this. As there's probably 2 racing games on the Saturn that I absolutely love. This is one of them. The other one is actually Destruction Derby. So I have been a fan of Destruction Derby since the original PlayStation came out, which is when I first played it. I will say that the Saturn version isn't, the graphics aren't as good as on the PlayStation, but I still really enjoy playing it. And at the moment, this is the only copy of the original Destruction Derby that I've got in my collection. So it is a way that I get to play it. The next, right, so the other driving game that I wanted to talk about was Hardcore 4x4. And I have to say, this isn't just the worst racing game that I've ever played. This is probably one of the worst games that I've ever played. The graphics are horrible. The controls just don't work. It is just a mess of a game. And yeah, I think if you look at the front of the box, the slogan on the front probably says everything you need to know. 4x4 off-road racing at its roughest. And I think that's as true as it's going to come, because this is a really rough game to play. So, yeah, if you're collecting for the Saturn, unless you're going for a full set, I would avoid Hardcore 4x4 literally as much as you can, because, yeah, it is, as I say, from my perspective, it's one of the worst games that I've ever played. So before moving on from the driving games, I'm going to do a bit of a dodgy segue, let's say that, into probably one of my favourite games on the Sega Saturn. And that is Sega Ages Volume 1. So this is a free game compilation that was released. It has got the original Afterburner, Space Harrier, and my all-time favourite game, Outrun. And this copy of Outrun is actually the closest to the arcade that has ever been released on a home port. Well, I say the nearest. The actual nearest is the Japanese version of Outrun. That has all the original music in whereas I think this one is, they're not exactly the same music, but I think the Japanese version of Outrun runs for about £90, and I've just not been able to pick that up for the collection yet. But it is something I do want to get. Obviously, going back with wanting to add more imports to the collection, that will be one that I'm looking to add. But I still get to get my Outrun fix with the Sega Ages collection. I don't think any more were released. So this one's obviously titled Volume 1. I don't think any more were released, but I think they were planned. I think there was one planned with sort of like Golden Axe, but yeah, for some reason they never saw the light of day. But yeah, this set is really good, and yeah, thoroughly enjoy playing on it.
Ready?
One of the other things that the Sega Saturn was really well known for was its ability to handle 2D graphics. And with that, there are some absolutely brilliant 2D platformers on the Saturn. The first one that I'm going to look at is actually Clockwork Knight. And essentially you play a wind-up sort of tinker sort of knight character. And the idea is you've got to rescue a princess that's been captured by, I think it's an evil toy from a toy box. Really, really good game. It did actually end up getting a sequel as well. I haven't got the sequel in the collection, just the first one. But yeah, it's a really enjoyable game. It's quite short, but yeah, I think for the time when it was released, it is a really impressive game. The other platformer that I've got in my collection is Bug. So you play a bug, is in the title really, that is, I think it's like he's a movie star, and you've got to progress through the levels is a different scene within the movie. But what made this game really unique was the scrolling, or the sort of vertical scrolling, because instead of the levels being on a flat 2D plane, you'll actually travel into the background of the level and things like that. So it's as close to a 3D platformer as you can get with a 2D game. That's probably the best way to describe it. But yeah, a really, really good game. This is another one that got a sequel as well. If I remember rightly, actually, I think the sequel for Bug is actually quite a sought-after game, and it's one of the really expensive ones on the Sega Saturn. So while we're on the subject of platformers, one game that I do have to talk about now as well, being the king of Sega platformers, and that is going to be Sonic. So one of the Sonic games that was released on the Saturn was a game called Sonic Jam. And essentially what this is an amalgamation of, if I remember rightly, it's Sonic 1, 2, 3 and Knuckles. But it also has an extra bit in it as well, which is like a 3D world. Or it's like a 3D hub world. And essentially it is a bit of a sort of tech demo for what eventually would lead on to sort of Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast. They were working on a 3D Sonic for the Saturn, but it ended up getting cancelled. I think it was a fair way through development. There are videos of it online, but I've not seen a playable version of that. But yeah, the sort of 3D concept was initially rolled out in this Sonic Jam game. And I have to say, it is really impressive. Now, if you think... so what are we looking at? We're looking at around sort of N64 time, so Mario 64. Probably say that it's not as polished as something like Mario 64, but definitely an impressive concept. And essentially what you do is in the hub world, you can run around, run into sort of different bits, because as well as on the disc, they've also got galleries, sort of a little movie theatre, which sort of brings up various Sonic video clips, really. I will say with the video clips on it, it's very focused on the Japanese market. So yeah, a lot of the videos in there are videos that are from Japan. But yeah, I think all in all, a really good game. Obviously, it is just a combination of re-release games as well. But any chance I get to play the original Sonic games, I always do. I'm a massive fan of the 2D Sonics. I'm not that much of a fan of none of the 3D Sonics. Just can't seem to get on with them. But yeah, Sonic Jam ticks a lot of boxes for me. So next up, we're going to have a quick look at some of the sports games that I've got on the Sega Saturn. And actually, I say sports games, I mean football games, because yeah, I've got 4 sports titles. They're all football games from various shapes or forms. 2 FIFAs, and actually Sega football. But yeah, I'll be honest, I don't really play these. Especially the FIFAs. I don't tend to play the older FIFAs because, yeah, I think the graphics are so out of date. I just find it hard to play them. Normally with these, it's like a sort of top-down sort of view. That was the only way that they could do football games back then. But it's not like the top-down that you get now, which is like straight above. This is sort of off to the side, and it is all right at the time, but yeah, I don't tend to play a lot of the sports games that I've got on here. These are ones that have just come in bundles that I've got, and yeah, as I say, just don't really play them. But one set of games that I do play extensively is going to be the fighting games. So I've only got 4 games here. Obviously, the 5th game that I've got in the collection is Dead or Alive, which I've actually shown in the import section. But yeah, some of the fighting games that we've got on here I absolutely love. Fighting Vipers was actually a pretty recent addition to the collection. I think that was only added a few weeks ago. But I'd seen this being talked about by loads of other YouTubers. And I have to say, the hype that they gave it was not misplaced. It is a really, really good fighting game. And yeah, it's just a shame that it's not a franchise that Sega has kept going. I think this is the only iteration of Fighting Vipers. But yeah, it was a really, really good game. And once again, another one, if you've got a Saturn, and especially if you're into fighting games, definitely pick this one up. Next up, we've obviously got Virtua Fighter 2 as well. I haven't got a copy of Virtua Fighter yet on the Saturn, but it is on the list to pick up. But Virtua Fighter 2, an absolutely classic fighting game. And once again, another one that I really enjoy playing. And then one that I haven't put too much time in is going to be X-Men Children of the Atom. So this was a pickup that I made, I think it's towards the beginning of the year. First time I actually played it was capturing footage for this video. And yeah, it's an interesting one. It is mega hard. Really, really is. First level, first time playing, got absolutely mashed. I think I was Wolverine versus Storm, and yeah, Storm just whooped my behind. But graphically, it looks really, really good. And yeah, it's a game that I am definitely going to be picking up. It's one of the more expensive games that I've got on the Saturn at the moment. I think this goes for about £20–25. But yeah, as a fighting game, it looks really good. I think I just need to get good. So because the Saturn was released so close to the release of the PS1, there are actually quite a few games that you will see on both platforms. Some of them are better on the Saturn, some of them are better on the PS1. But as you see, we've got 8 games here that I've got in the collection that are also on the PS1. Alien Trilogy, absolutely brilliant game. I think I played that. I captured some footage for that in the PS1 video. One game that I did play on here when I first got my Saturn was Theme Park. So I think I've said it a couple of times now. I absolutely love the Theme Park games. More so this one. The sequels weren't as good. Obviously, I've got multiple copies of this across different platforms, but the Saturn was the first one that I played recently. And it was really, really good up until the point that I just could not order new stock for the shops. So it pretty much killed the game there and then for me. And yeah, I haven't actually picked it back up since. Another game that surprisingly was on the Saturn, and that is the original Tomb Raider. So a lot of people, you think Tomb Raider, you automatically think PlayStation. But yeah, it was released on the Saturn. And yeah, it's an okay game on the Saturn. I will say, obviously, I played Tomb Raider for the PlayStation 1 collection video as well. And I have to say, when I was playing it through on the Saturn, I had the feeling, I haven't actually checked yet, but I had the feeling that there were less enemies in the game. So there's a particular part where you're walking over a load of rope bridges. And on the below the rope bridges, there's a load of walls running around. Now, on the Saturn version, there were 2 walls down there. I seem to remember on the PlayStation, there was like 4 or 5 down there. And yeah, so it did feel in parts that it was scaled back, so to speak, on the Saturn, which is a bit of a shame. Also, another game that I played in the last collection video as well was Worms. Once again, I think graphically it is better on the PS1. But once again, for me, I love Worms through and through. So any chance I get to play it, I will always play it. And then some of the other games that we've got on there, we've got Tunnel B1. I've only played the Saturn version of this in preparation for this video. I think I've got it on the PS1, but I haven't played it yet. Soviet Strike's another one, but that one is obviously a continuation of the Strike series from the Mega Drive. And then we've also got Command and Conquer. Once again, I'm not a big fan of playing these sort of RTS games on consoles. I much prefer playing them with a mouse and keyboard on the PC. Next up, we are going to be talking about an absolutely amazing on-rail shooter that was originally released on the Saturn exclusively, and that is the Panzer Dragoon series. So at the moment, I've only got Panzer Dragoon 1 and 2 in the collection. Yeah, just don't have the money to get, and I've forgotten the name of it now, the third one. It is one that I would like to have in the collection, but yeah, I don't have the £500, £500, £600, £700 in some instances to pick it up. But I will say with Panzer Dragoon 1 and 2, they are absolutely brilliant games. I thoroughly enjoyed playing them. And yeah, I think the only other Panzer Dragoon game I've got in my collection is Panzer Dragoon Outrun on the, I think it's the original Xbox. So yeah, it has carried on. And I do know that they have actually re-released Panzer Dragoon now. I know it's available on the PS4. Don't know if it's on the Xbox One. I definitely know it's on the PS4 because I think I've got it in my Amazon basket. So there is now a modern way to play the original Panzer Dragoons, which is really good. But yeah, these are two games that I absolutely love having in the collection, and they go into the Saturn quite regular, and I play them whenever I get some time. So, next up, we are going to be having a look at some shooters that were released on the Saturn. And one of the first ones that you've got to mention whenever you talk about shooters on the Sega Saturn is Virtua Cop. And obviously this is predominantly known as a light gun game. I don't currently have a CRT TV, so I can't actually play it with a light gun. But I will say, I played it with the controller, and it was really responsive. Normally I don't like playing these sort of shooters on controllers. But yeah, this just seemed to work really, really well on the controller. And yeah, I really enjoyed it actually. So yeah, definitely one that I'm glad that I've got in the collection. Another one that we've got, so I think the majority of the shooters that I've currently got in the collection, so I've currently got 4, 2 of them being ports, so we've already looked at them in the ports part of the video. But one that I am going to mention actually is Loaded. So this is a top-down shooter, very, very gory, and I know that basically I've only played about 10 minutes of the first level. And you're trying to escape a prison, or you're escaping a prison with a rocket launcher. I want to know what prisons are out there that gives the inmates rocket launchers. But yeah, so you're trying to escape this prison. You're trying to sort of work your way to the exit of the level. Everyone in there is trying to kill you, and yeah, you've basically just got to blow everyone up. It's blood and gore all over the place. But yeah, a really enjoyable top-down shooter actually. It's one that I've had it in the collection. I think I specifically bought it, but just haven't had a chance to play it yet. So I played it for this video, and yeah, really enjoyed it. Next up, we've got another Sega exclusive, and I will be honest, this is a game that I haven't really put too much time in. I'm embarrassed to say, and that is Nights into Dreams. So yeah, I've played it briefly. Obviously, the thing with Nights into Dreams, they did release a special controller for it, which was sort of an analog controller, and it's meant to play really good with the analog controller. I currently don't have the analog controller in the collection, so I can't play it with that. But I will say, playing it with the normal controller, it just felt really clunky, and I just couldn't get into it. So yeah, I haven't spent too much time on this. What I will say is, with my the copy that I've got, it also did come with I think it's Christmas Nights into Dreams as well, which was like a Christmas themed one that was released. But yeah, haven't put too much time on it. Obviously, it has now been ported to other consoles. I think you can get it on the 360, I want to say. And then there was a version as well that was released on the Nintendo Wii as well. I've got the Nintendo Wii one. I haven't actually played it, but yeah, I think what I'm going to try and do is track down the analog controller, just so that I can have a proper go of Nights into Dreams, because yeah, it is so highly rated. I just think I'm missing something by not having the right controller to play it. So on to the last section for today, and this is, well, I've titled this section Other, because I just did not know where to put these games in sort of any other section within the video. So the first one that we've got is actually a game from Bullfrog, and this is a game called Magic Carpet. And I have to say, I was playing this and I didn't have a clue what was going on. There was this whole big cinematic at the beginning of the game, and obviously there's no voices, no dialogue or anything, and yeah, I just didn't understand it. Obviously, when you get into the game, you're flying around on a magic carpet. Couldn't work out where I needed to go, what I needed to do. So yeah, I haven't actually put too much time into this, but yeah, it's a fairly unique game, and from my perspective, it's by Bullfrog, which is a studio I absolutely love. Obviously, they're the creators of the original theme park, Theme Hospital, and I know there's a fair amount of other games that they created as well. So as a studio, Bullfrog is really good. As I say, I just couldn't understand Magic Carpet. But one game that I did understand through and through was a game called Mass Destruction. And this one, I actually remember I picked this up back in 2022 on a trip to the Isle of Wight. And it was in one of the game shops that I went into, and they had it for a fairly decent price. So I ended up picking it up. Before I even had a Saturn, I just picked it up just by the look of it. And yeah, I played it for this video, and it did not disappoint. So you are essentially, it's a top-down sort of tank shooter game. And yeah, it is brilliant. Really enjoyed it. And it is definitely a game that is going to go onto my regular sort of Saturn to playlist. Yeah, just really enjoyed it. And then the last game that I've got in this section is True Pinball. So yeah, I find with pinball games, they can either sort of be absolutely brilliant or meh to God, that's awful. This one, I wouldn't say it's absolutely brilliant. Wouldn't say it's absolutely awful. It is definitely sort of in the middle of meh. I think with this one, I think the problem that I had with this is that the ball physics are just a bit off. And I'm only talking by just a bit, but it's enough that you can really feel it when you're playing it. For example, you'll sort of... I was flipping the left flipper, didn't even touch the right one, and then the ball would just go straight underneath the right one and sort of out of play. So, yeah, the ball physics are a bit wonky on this one. But, yeah, it's an alright pinball game. Nothing to write home about. So, that is going to wrap up our deep dive into my Sega Saturn collection. So, I am constantly on the lookout for new Sega Saturn games. Since getting the Saturn, I have loved playing it. Every opportunity I get to play it, and I always thoroughly enjoy it. I think in overall scope, it's definitely within my top 3 favourite consoles. But yeah, there are some absolutely amazing games on the console, and yeah, it's just a shame that it didn't get the love and support that it should have done. And I think the fault of the Saturn failure squarely lies on Sega. They were at a point where they were just scrambling to keep up with other companies. And things like the Mega CD, the 32X, and the Saturn all competing with each other. People just didn't know where they were going with Sega. So yeah, it was a real shame that they mishandled the Saturn in the way they did. But I am so glad to finally have one in the collection that I can play whenever I want. So, as I say, that is going to wrap up today's video. But before you head off, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're not already, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell to be kept up to date when I upload new videos. And yeah, if you did enjoy the video, let me know in a comment down below what sort of Saturn games you like playing. And also what console you'd like to see me do next. So we've got quite a few to get through. So yeah, I am definitely getting lined up to start filming the next video. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below if there's a particular console that you want me to look at next. And yeah, with that said, thank you so much for watching today. Really hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, bye.